Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Market Check. Happy Monday, everybody. A reminder, as always, there is no second best. Daily YouTube live streams talk about markets. And what a week to be able to do it with you all once again. We've got another Fed meeting. Of course, it's likely to bring us a lot of volatility. We have quite a bit to discuss here, given that the overnight odds seem to be rising on the odds of a 50 basis point rate cut, which is something that we haven't quite necessarily been planning for here, particularly recently, but we're definitely going to talk about it on this show, as well as all of our favorite tickers, charts, and everything in between. I'm Snorlax. You guys also know me as Tommy. I'm joined by Max, and I will be joined by Chef Jackus as well. He is finishing up cooking a meal for our Discord subscribers. So if you want to be receiving meals from someone like Chef Jackus here on Monday mornings, it's a great way to do so. We have information on how to potentially subscribe to our Discord linked in the description below. But guys, I hope you all had a fantastic weekend. It is once again Monday. Like I said, we have a lot to talk about, and we're going to make sure to cover all of it for you. But before we can do that, I'm going to ask if you can like, slam, smash, destroy the like button, whatever you need to do to justify hitting that button for us. You'll make at least me very happy that you did so. We're always very appreciative when you guys can smash that like button. And of course, like I said, we're going to do our best to cook you up a delicious meal because we have a very interesting week in markets this week, right? I mean, beyond just the fact that we've kind of opened the week with a little bit of volatility from a percentage change standpoint, we do have the Fed speaking on Wednesday. And this Fed meeting is kind of interesting for a few different reasons. And I think, first of all, the elephant in the room kind of seems to be that, okay, well, the odds of a 50 basis point rate cut have gone up a little bit. What does that mean for the market? And like I said, this is something that we're likely going to be discussing a lot on this show. 50 basis points, is it bullish? Is it bearish? Well, I would say we might not know the answer to that question until Wednesday, but 25 basis points, if that is the level that the market begins to price in, whether that's before or on Wednesday, that will probably be very bullish for the market. But if 50 basis points comes in, I think there's a lot more gray area, probably more bearish. So for once, we do have to pay attention to what Chairman Powell is speaking about, unfortunately, and how that obviously impacts markets. But I look across the board at kind of how markets are reacting thus far. I think that we're kind of more or less in purgatory in Wednesday, right? Unless we see some major volatility here over the next 24 hours that kind of shifts that and forces the market's hand to act before Powell. I think it's more than likely we are going to wait until Wednesday to see what Powell has to say, of course. But ultimately, guys, we do love binary decision making. That's something that I talk about a lot. Binary decision making, yes and no. Or is it over? Or are we so back? And I think we can finally get some of these answers clarified more thoroughly later this week. But just kind of looking at the board as we start the show, Bitcoin and ETH are down a bit on the day. Equity markets are, I guess the NASDAQ is down about 1%, but the S&P is more or less flat. VIX is green, but hardly. It reflects a market that's, I think, a tad uncertain until Wednesday, but not a market that is necessarily spooked just yet. And if that does reflect into Wednesday, of course, we can cover that as well. But right now, I think purgatory is the word that I'm going to have to abuse today, Max. given that asset prices are, this could just as easily be a Monday morning sell-off. Tuesday erases them and we pump tomorrow. I could just as easily see that. But we are looking, I think the market is looking for just a touch of clarity here from Powell. As much as we all love to be tuning in to Jerome Powell on a Wednesday afternoon to be able to see what he has to say, which is always nothing, by the way. I think he's starting to get used to that attention as well, a little bit, right? All the spotlights on Jerome Powell. He might hate that, but I think he secretly likes it. But I wish I had more general commentary about the way the market's trading right now. Obviously, there's going to be a few beta assets that are outperforming against the market, but until Wednesday, I think we are a little bit beholden to whatever Powell is going to say this week. Although ideally, Ideally, we start to get word about what the Fed's decision will be before Wednesday, and maybe we can get a trend. I don't know. Maybe that's maybe that's a little bit optimistic. But Max, I'd love to know kind of how you're interpreting not just this morning, but also the implications of both a 25 and a 50 bips rate cut. I know that was something that we were kind of texting about over the weekend, but I'd love to know your thoughts.
Yes. Good morning, Tommy. Good morning, everybody. We now have the chef with us too. Jackus, good morning to you also. It's
Morning.
a really difficult question to answer. I'm struggling with it a little bit because we've had such a dramatic repricing of the probabilities of a 50 basis point cut as opposed to a 25 basis point cut over the past few weeks. It was basically like a 70% chance, 80% chance going back last month for a 25 basis point cut. And now suddenly it's like 60% that we get a 50 basis point cut. And my feelings around the 50 basis point cut were that might be a little bit aggressive for the first cut. And a 25 basis point cut could be largely interpreted by the market and market participants as, hey, we can cut because the data is good. Let's just dip our toe in a little bit and see how the market digests a 25 basis point cut. A 50 basis point cut to me signals, I don't know. Maybe something is not so perfect. Maybe the labor market is deteriorating a little bit more than we would like. Maybe there are, I don't know, credit issues that they know about that I don't know about right now. But there's also a lot of contradicting data. Like GDP is positive. The last print came in above expectations. Also, to bring it back to the labor market, 4.2% US unemployment is not screaming crisis to me right now. You also have things like global M2 and price discovery. And structurally, I don't see, at least with legacy markets, a whole lot to be concerned about at this point. It doesn't mean that things can't change quickly, but there's a lot of contradiction out there. And because of how rapidly the 50 basis point probability has climbed, I feel a little bit more unsure of what that means, right? On one side of it, I say, well, we had the fastest or quickest tightening cycle that we've ever gone through going back a couple years, right? When they hiked from like 0 to 5.5. Fastest we've ever had it, right? So at the same time, maybe 50 basis points isn't too dramatic. Maybe 50 basis points still could be classified as things are fine. We can just simply afford to cut by more, right? And then also a bit of a contradiction to what I was initially thinking is, well, 50 basis points should be more bearish, right? It signals, hey, this is aggressive, something's wrong, we need to cut. But at the same time, the past couple weeks, as the probabilities for a 50 basis point cut have actually gone up, you've seen markets react favorably to that. So honestly, guys, I'm a bit lost on how to feel about it. I'm bullish. I believe that the economic data that these interest rate decisions are tethered to are not telling me that we are facing an imminent crisis. So in one regard, I feel insulated by the data that we have available. But at the same time, it was my opinion for a while that 25 basis points would be bullish and 50 would be not so bullish. But I'm happy to be wrong on that. I'm happy for 25 to be bullish, but 50 to be more bullish. And these are both mean reversion cuts where, hey, the data's good and we can simply afford to cut. So I am a little bit unsure, if I'm being completely honest. I'm a little bit unsure. And all I know is check week, big week. Big week.
Big week.
Big week.
Chef, welcome. I know you just got finished cooking a meal. I would love to get your thoughts kind of as we open the show, right? Because we're discussing the idea of, okay, 25 basis points versus 50. How are you viewing not just the recent repricing, but the implications that either one would have for the market?
Yeah, welcome, guys. Yeah, check week, big implications. Guys, that I've been cooking big time just in a BB Discord. That's why I've been late, guys, especially me, because I was just finishing up overtime. Big cook session today, bigger than usual, and like last week was a big one from not just me but the entire team. But this week will be probably even bigger. So I was still like writing responses to everyone, and so many questions in DMs, and I still get a post in my channel, so all over the place right now. But yeah, listen, when it comes to these, and by the way, guys, do like if you want some alpha, you guys know what you need to do if you want it. But listen,
They
if you
already
want
know,
me to
Jack.
cook, they know, but they do not do, right? They are not behaving. Anyways, this week the cuts, the FOMC will have a special place of importance because it's not really as much important when like something becomes a consensus, right? So like it always goes like, hey, we have a consensus of the market high, or like of rates being down, right? There was the consensus in 2020-21, but then Powell starts talking about rate hikes, right? He starts talking about them upfront, and then it actually begins. So it takes some time for these things to take effect and to unroll within the market, within the economy, and so forth. And if you look at the chart, right, the interest rates actually began in March 2022, but the markets actually top in December 2021 already. And then if you look when markets bottomed, right, they bottomed in September 2022, and I know that we had a deviation in crypto when it came to FTX, but had we not FTX, market would have bottomed already, and we know that Ether already bottomed ahead, right? So that's confirming that. And so the markets bottomed September 2022, but interest rates still kept going higher. So it's not really about the end result because markets are forward looking, but it's more about like the market kind of taking that in ahead. So I think that was going that is already happening, that the market saw, right? Like Powell was talking to us in the past meetings that the cuts will happen, but they want to like take it slowly. They want to take it gradual, and how it happens will matter a lot, whether we get like a quarter or a half a basis point cut. And this time, right? This time. So once again, what I'm trying to say is that the change is where it's worth paying attention to, right? Because when we were half of through the rate pause, or even the rate hikes, or let's say rate hikes, right, to keep it continuous, it didn't really matter then for the market. As I said, right, it bottomed September 2022, the market, or October or something like that. But if you actually look at when the rate hikes ended, they ended in they basically ended a year later, right? In August 2000, or like July was the last hike. So we could say July 2023, which is nearly a year later. But the markets already bottomed a year before that. So when it becomes a consensus that like, all right, we are truly hiking, right? At some point, it will stop mattering. The same thing was with the rate pause, right? We came to it. They started to talk about like, yeah, we will be data dependent and all those cheeky lines. But they came to the end and they said like, all right, we think this is enough, restrictive enough. We are kind of pausing, right? And then it still like took some time before the market truly like understood, hey, we are paused and we are not hiking anymore. Because if you look back then, I was anticipating this ahead. I wrote one of my best threads yet back then about interest rates. But back then I foresaw it but the market hasn't, and it still, people were still debating whether we like are going to get still more rate hikes, and if it's going to go 8%, or even some gurus on national television told you it's going to go to 13%. So when it became apparent a few months after, the market was already rallying, and we've been in a bull market basically since September 2022, which is 2 years. And lots of perma bears are completely wrecked. They are still behaving like they are right. They are not. They are continuously being correct. And at some point, they will tell you that they told you so, but they missed 2-3 years of a bull market. That's how it's going to happen. And so what I'm trying to say is that the market kind of taking a gradual, the market, and I'm talking about this to get to today because we need to like understand where we are coming from. So when the market understood that mid of 2023, right, that we truly are rate paused, it started to rally when we became rate pause, and it became a consensus. And then every other meeting when we had a new release of FOMC rates, it did not matter, right? Like we were at 5.5%, and the next number was 5.5%. The market already knew the release of the numbers didn't really matter. It didn't really matter what the number is going to be because everybody knew pretty much, right? And yes, we had the futures market saying like it's going to be, we're going to get rate cuts in March already. And then they were like, yeah, we're going to get rate hikes again. At the end of the day, nothing of that happened. Obviously, it was just speculation and the narratives driven by the news. We stayed rate pause. It was the consensus. But now that consensus has ended, and that's what gets us to this present day, is where it was communicated by by Fed, by our daddy Jerome Powell, who says, hey, we are going into a new period of rate cuts. So the market is currently pricing that in again, and it will still take time, and it will matter how it happens, but it will only matter to the extent of like the next few months, and then it will become a consensus again, and it will not matter. But this week, it will matter a lot, especially with how this market is divided. Like currently, I do not know what the percentages are, but through the past months, we have seen it oscillate, going all the way from like 80% in favor of a half a basis point cut versus 20% of quarter one, to the exact opposite, where it was like 20% for half a basis point cut and 80 for quarter, right? So basically, we could say one thing: the market is divided and it's 50-50. And understanding what it's going to actually be, whether that's going to be 25 or 50, is going to be crucial. So I think that the actual release of this week number is going to cause lots of volatility because of that, because the market doesn't know. And we can speculate what is more bullish. I think like you have some people saying that like we need half a basis point cut for it to be bullish. Some say it's the exact opposite. I'm in that camp. I think we need quarter of a basis point cut. I could see a scenario where half a basis point cut is also bullish. I think generally the market the price action is confirming and all of that. But still, I think quarter of a basis point cut is going to be way more bullish because it's what's being presented by the Fed. And there are lots of other implications for that, but which I was discussing before, right? But essentially, what I was gonna say is that because the reasons I described, the cut that we will be getting this week on Wednesday will matter, and then what Powell is going to say 30 minutes later will also matter a lot, right? So I could see even scenario where we like get a half a basis point cut. It will be viewed as bearish because it would be like, hey, we have some trouble going on. We need to cut more to ease the pressure. That the market would view that as a bearish. For 30 minutes, the market would nuke. And then Powell comes in 30 minutes later and says, hey, nothing's going really on. We just wanted to we took it, maybe a little bit longer to stay paused, or we began this trajectory, but everything's all right. And the market might immediately bite it back up. Or there is a case where he's like, hey, maybe there are some issues, whatever. And we decided that it's needed more, and that would be viewed as bearish, and it would continue to nuke. Essentially, I would say that rate cuts are always long-term bullish, because it eases the pressure from the economy and the borrowing is cheaper, liquidity is coming in, and all of that. But how it affects the market locally is super important on context. So you will have lots of Twitter gurus who will tell you that, like, hey, look at 2008, we had rate cuts and everything nuked. So that can be the case, but it depends on what they are based on. And if they are just based on, just because CPI is going down but nothing is breaking locally, and do not mistaken me, I know that there are big problems, but they are not immediate. Rate cuts in this case can be very much bullish, and just look at 1995 or 1989. So that's when we got rate cuts. Market continued really higher. I do not say we are at the same time as we were back then, but just because we're going to get rate cut, it doesn't mean exactly that we're going to get nuke in the market. Anyways, I've overcooked a little, and to keep the discussion going, back to you guys.
That's something that I've been pretty vocal about, that 80s to 90s period as well, Jackus, where for whatever reason, right now it's like the most popular engagement farm to just overlay the 2007, 2008 fractal with the S&P 500 and then just go, oh yeah, rate cuts. It means we're about to enter a 3-year nuke for the S&P 500 where it goes down 50%. I'm just like, why cherry pick 2000 and 2007 when you have a time in the 80s and 90s where you actually had cuts coupled with rising US unemployment and a bull market, right? Yeah. Context is key. And I think that people are cherry picking data, honestly, to engagement farm right now. I don't know if you think it's cherry picking too, but that's how I view it.
It's social media, and I'm more like understanding the game in my recent years, especially as I'm being part of it to some degree and battling in myself, right? And it's sometimes hard because, like, you really have to be a different type of personality when you speak to people in private, when you want to provide them the highest quality of information. Like, your language gotta change. Versus where you post on social media, because nobody's interested in the truth. Nobody's interested, if they are long, they do not want to hear that, like, the market might pull back here. Like, nobody wants to hear that, and you do not win anything over it. So social media has become just like this cesspool of engagement farmers who just, and I had actually a really good post about this over the weekend. I'm not sure if you guys read it, right? But I was saying that, and actually, let me just quickly find it. But here, like, that it really doesn't matter if some like scamfluencer calls for 150k Bitcoin, right? And like, because lots of smarter guys are like, hey, this guy's calling for 150k, and this guy is an idiot, therefore we will not go there. But that's like, trying to be too much right curve, that you end up being mid curve sometimes. And like, we need to understand that these guys, like, even broken clock is right twice a day, and these guys sometimes can't get it right, but they are not like backing their claims with data. They are just engagement farming. And so they post these numbers. People want to hear this, right? Like, if you are long, you don't want to hear that Bitcoin is going to go in a 6-month range. You want to hear that it's going to go to freaking moon in the next 2 months, and you're gonna like make it, right? That's what you want to hear. So if someone provides you this, you will receive likes, and unfortunately the algorithm on social media is based on likes. By the way, guys, like the freaking content, right? Because we are like providing you alpha. God damn it, I hate it. But anyways, so they do this, right? And they do it on both sides. They'll just say like, at least if they were like, I think it's going to go to 150K because of this and that, and provided some logical reason. But no, social media is about simplifying and engagement farming. So they'll just say 150, and then when the market drops, what's bringing the most engagement? Hey, it's the bearish target. So they will go for extremes on both sides. Sometimes they'll get it right. Like, just because they are right now calling for 150K doesn't mean we cannot get it. What is going to happen is that we will probably get it, the market will go there. But at that time, when we get there, their engagement farm will get even bigger, and they will start calling for 300 or millions, right? And at that point, the people that are holding it will get so greedy. They will, they have a, just think of our group, right? Like, you can tell people to sell. They still have a mental problem to sell. And so what is going to happen is that these people, when we reach 150K, and the scamfluencers like said so just now, they will just raise their targets, and these people will not sell. They will round trip their gains. And I do not know if you like right now top at 150K. I will have to like, I will have to digest the market data at that point, right? But these guys, they will not do it. They will just raise their targets. They will raise, they will keep the engagement farming going on. They will get paid insane amounts of money by exchanges and whales, because these guys are trapping the retail. They are making them being the exit liquidity, and that's the game that's being played over there, right? Mainly. So when us, like quality data providers, or we are trying to like stay rational, but we cannot grow unless like we receive the freaking like button, which is why I hate it. And because the algo is simply going to recommend you only if you do that. So like the language is going to differ on how we talk in on public versus how we like talk in private. And it's sometimes very hard for me even to flip between these two languages, and at the same time like stay sort of rational on Twitter, right, which is free. So freaking damn hateful game. Sometimes I hate it, sometimes I love it, but yeah, I think we kind of nailed the balance there with BB especially. So anyways.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just looking at ETH right here, guys. Also, the BB terminal needs to be studied. First of all, talking about good data providing, I whipped this up for you guys because ETH is at that level, right? ETH is at that level where it really needs to hold, and I'm going to show you a few different reasons as to why I think it's going to, right? And actually, let me hop off here, and I'm going to share TradingView first. And then we're going to go over to the BB terminal because you can't get all this on TradingView. But this is really like your must-hold level, right? If you want to look at it, comparing it to kind of what we did last cycle, right? This was right here last cycle. This was September right here. This was September of the Bitcoin halving year. And this was your must-hold region. And you ended up doing that, and then look at what happened, right? Q4 historically is really, really solid for ETH, for risk. And right now we're retesting that must-hold bear market range high level again. You've got a nice little diagonal as well. And we're just ranging right here, right? So this is where we are. And funny enough, it's, like I said right here, previous cycle, September was your bear market range high retest from last cycle of the halving year. This is September right here. So the question is, like, are we doing the same thing again? And I'm going to show you as well, there is some data here on the BB terminal that could suggest we are in actually pretty bullish conditions right here. What we have up top is the ETH chart, and I've overlaid here your spot versus perps premium. So this is when spot is trading at a discount to perps, right? And what you're seeing right here is you've got these regions where when it's kind of this histogram is red versus green, you can see that when things get frothy, this indicator is going to tell you every single time, right? And when we're sort of in this discount territory, it's also going to be red. On top of that, you can go down here and see funding. Are people shorting the crap out of it? Similarly to actually last September, this right here on the left, this range that I'm squiggling my mouse over, last September, right here, we had a major spot discount compared to perps. We also saw prolonged periods of negative funding. Okay. It's exactly what we're doing right now this September. While we are retesting our high time frame, bear market range high retest, gotta hold level. We've got sporadically negative funding with a spot discount trading right now across all exchanges. And on top of that, what I really like is that your OI, your open interest for perps traders, has completely reset to the exact same level as, where's my little tool? I was going to circle it right here, right? You can see that we have reset all of your positioning. Your open interest in Ethereum has reset to the same level that we were back in the very beginning of 2024. So you've basically seen like a cyclical reset is what you've seen. And now you're trading at a discount again with negative funding and spot versus perps premium again, trading in the negative. So you're at that gotta hold level with rate cuts coming up very, very soon. And you've got a lot of reasons to think that we should, in theory, bounce here. There's really not too many leverage traders that need to be wiped from here. So if you are going to see a continued downtrend, what you're going to see is just spot selling, right? You're not seeing like an overwhelming amount of longs. You're not seeing billions of dollars of ETH longs that still need to be cleared. That's not what you're seeing here. You've seen a cyclical reset going back to the beginning of 2024, now with negative funding and a spot discount. So just wanted to point that out to you guys. Study the BB terminal. And how about that Agger feature on the right side, guys? I mean, how about that? How about it?
How about that? Everything that you could possibly need to be trading all on one dashboard. Who would have thought?
Oh, and then let me just scroll down a little bit. Oh, there's heat maps. Just one scroll away. There's heat maps. I mean, that's pretty awesome. We got heat maps, liquidation levels. Oh man, look at all that liquidity sitting right up there at 4K. You can just go right from my chart. But for real, like there really is a much larger incentive now to send price higher. Like there's a lot more money to be made by sending this thing higher because like I showed you guys here, we've basically had a cyclical reset. That's what this is showing you. And you go down here and you look at the liquidation heat map. I mean, look at this. Up just under 4K. Billions could be taken out. And you know, this is something that needs to be observed as well because comparing, you know, all of the majors, and I want to talk to you about this too, Tommy. This is just a spaghetti chart. You can add tickers over here, you do whatever you want, toggle them on and off. We'll take Haspa off just for now because it's not a major. But comparing Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, BNB, and XRP, going back to the beginning of the year, especially with CZ getting out of jail later this month, which is also a big catalyst, BNB has been the top performing major this year, right? It hasn't pulled a 50x, but when you talk about an asset continually being supported, whether it's manipulated or not, I don't want to talk about that. We don't talk about that. But the fact that it's up so much more and just refuses to break down, even when the market really, you know, takes a dive, especially with CZ being its own catalyst, it's like, can we justify BNB being a really solid hold for the remainder of this cycle? The spaghetti chart would indicate that. But Tommy, I don't know if you have any thoughts about BNB and CZ, but I mean, the data is right here. It's clear as day.
Well, yeah, I definitely have thoughts about BNB. I mean, they're pretty much all positive. I would say the only negative thing I would have to say about BNB is some of their listings recently have been super sketchy, which some people would argue is in fact a feature, not a bug. I remember this was something that we debated last summer Oh, why is Binance listing all of these scammy tickers? They must be insolvent. And it's just,
Yeah.
well, no, it's a casino, and they're going to list the things that they know people are going to want to trade leverage futures on. Whether or not the SEC has a problem with that is something else entirely. But from like a Binance standpoint, I don't, why wouldn't you expect a casino to list the most speculative assets that you can possibly trade? But as far as like a cyclical hold, that's one of the things I've kind of been talking about a little bit more recently, was my interest in holding BNB as an asset, kind of as like if you're holding a major, right, like which one are you holding? And I think there's very specific subsets of participants that fit into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. And then I think the alternative to that is, okay, you also have BNB here, which has really for the last, it didn't match Solana's ROI off the cyclical low just yet, but we've talked about how BNB looks completely floored against Solana for one. But I think BNB is a nice alternative to be able to own, maybe a little bit of beta exposure to crypto that's not explicitly Bitcoin, and also isn't ETH. And as we've seen with ETH, that's a good thing, right? Because there are probably a lot of people right now that are like, well, I want major exposure that's not Bitcoin, but Sol might be a little bit too much volatility for me, and Ethereum hasn't done anything. Well, BNB is kind of that token I view more or less as fitting that description. I would add to that by also saying that, GCR said a long time ago, the next bull market will likely come from China. We all know inevitably that the Chinese are going to ease. They're likely going to be doing some sort of UBI programs. That's going to be bullish at the very least for, I would imagine, Binance Smart Chain, right? Because I remember distinctly in 2021, despite the fact that we had, all of these new interesting L1s and like AVAX and Solana, and even, you can really shitcoin on Luna, but Luna as well. The second half of 2021, people forget that the BSC network activity remained on par with those chains, even though the BNB token wasn't necessarily appreciating anymore. So I think if you do see Asia come back in a big way, Binance Smart Chain is obviously going to benefit as a tailwind of that. And BNB, I don't think you could have really a more favorable multi-year backdrop for an asset over like a 4 or 5 year period, right? They beat the SEC. CZ is coming out of prison. China is going to stimulate, and that's likely going to be bullish for Asian proxies to speculate on crypto, which is usually BSC. So BNB is kind of the direct beneficiary of that. As far as like outperforming and underperforming Bitcoin and ETH, we've seen this before where it's drastically outperformed Bitcoin and ETH. I remember how big of a meme, and I'm sure you guys do too, BNB ETH and BNB Bitcoin back in 2022, where when those pairs were literally just up only while the market was going down only. It was like a really safe storage of value at the time. But that's a long way of saying that I am a big bull on BNB over a multi-year time horizon. I'm just unsure necessarily how to play it. I think if I don't get discounts on the token itself, then just playing on Binance Smart Chain will probably be good enough, right? Just being privy to whatever is going on chain, because if we have any sort of speculative season on Binance Smart Chain, there's probably going to be a lot of opportunities. And I remember in 2021, the opportunities on BSC were they were arguably the best of the cycle. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong there, but yeah.
Yeah, BNB is also one of the only tickers that didn't break down out of its what do we want to call it? Bull market range low, right?
Yeah.
Like it just didn't budge, It just didn't. And I always figured it would, right? Like what is, you saw Solana just get so beat up, and it was like, why has BNB, like why did it refuse to break down, back over here, right? Here's BNB. Why did it never, lose this level when every other ticker out there basically did this, and like went down here at least? They did a reaccumulation like this and then went up. BNB never did that. You know, I don't. We could debate for hours. We could debate for hours why
I
that
mean,
is.
probably fraud, but I mean that doesn't have it. You can just view this as like a tether chart, right? This is probably what people or a good like visualization about what people thought would happen to tether. Okay, well, support's going to break, it's going to depeg, and then it's going to go to zero. But eventually, enough time in crypto is almost kind of like legitimization of not just your brand but also your products and its ability to last the test of time, because as we know, crypto is highly cyclical. And so if assets are surviving multiple bear markets, they're probably doing that for a reason. And of course, like you said, Max, we can argue about why that is. All that matters is that it does, and it has. And there's not really anything to suggest that, at this point, those range lows are not going to hold. So, I tend to think Binance has positioned itself in a way with the help of the SEC even as well, because the SEC has stamped out a lot of competitors or the ability to compete. Binance can have a stranglehold on the crypto market going forward. People want to talk about ETFs, the boomers, and how they're bidding. And, who was actually controlling this market for the last 6 or 7 months? It was Binance and probably Bitfinex as well, but really more so Binance once again. So I just wanted to lay that out there as well. The boomers think they're in control, but I think it's really more so Binance.
100%. I love this chart too because this was crazy, by the way. This last little OI spike when you had that really predatory trap right here, right? That was such a predatory, like, get effed kind of move. But OI for BNB as well has completely reset to like retest its bear market range high, which I know some people are like, you can't chart OI. I think you can for sure. I don't know if you'd agree, Tommy, but
You definitely can. You
can. Yeah. So like I love this retest. Like you might not get the perfect retest. You might not get your perfect retest down here at $300 or whatever, but your OI has reset perfectly to the same level it was right over here, which you kind of got your retest, right? Like I really like that.
Yeah, it looks good for BNB.
Going down here, I'm like, look at all that. Look at all those liquidations above head. They're gonna take those. And then, going way back even into 2023, like Solana has been outperforming, but not by that much, right? And if you're really interested in like the downside is what's so impressive here is that, let's just say from like when Sol peaked, here, let's literally just do Sol versus BNB, right? Let's go to the 4 hour. Okay, let's look at like this range that we're in here. Okay. So Solana has gotten beaten up a lot more in this range, in this chop solidation than BNB, like from the highs. There's really no denying it. There's no denying it. Like BNB, just holds up better than Sol, right? Like Sol will pump harder, it seems like, at least early this cycle. But here's BNB versus Sol. Like BNB is up, what, 40% more since the last leg of this markup. It has support. Like if you want to talk about an asset that like is reflexive and actually performs well when conditions are primed, and also has a militia and a cartel supporting it, refusing to let key levels break. I don't know of another ticker that has that, besides maybe Andy with me trying to support price. Okay. But like for real, BNB, it's unbelievable how well it's holding up. And it makes me want to buy some spot and just hold it through the cycle because I trust that they won't let it go down, honestly.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the protection against downside is almost kind of like the most favorable aspect of it, with the exception of maybe like 1 or 2 months out of the 20, I think it was 2023, where Binance was showing a lot of weakness. people were talking about it being insolvent. I think they were like January 2023, and then obviously the summer of last year. BNB has been a much better storage of value than just about any asset in crypto, even Bitcoin. I don't know, again, I don't know why that is. We can debate why that is, but at the end of the day, the drawdowns speak for itself, or the lack thereof. And that's what I think make it so appealing to me versus a lot of these other altcoins, is that I have a feel. I mean, eventually we know BNB will rip. It's not just like it's going to trade, as like just Bitcoin 1-for-1. Eventually it's going to break out, probably when you have a bit more speculation on altcoins. Things like Total 2, Total 3 break an all-time high. You're going to see obviously BNB be an obvious beneficiary. I mean, just look at what they're listing right now on their exchanges. But the drawdown protection is a very nice feature on BNB that do make it appealing to me over something like ETH. Because obviously ETH has been just kind of in its own world this cycle. That's how I'll characterize it in a nice way.
I mean, it's like basically looking like Bitcoin when you look at it like this. It's like they're not really letting it. It's like I almost wonder if they're just trying to. That's how they're trying to satisfy their investors, by saying, "Yeah, we don't draw down more than Bitcoin. Just hold us." Because when I look at these two charts, you've got Bitcoin and BNB right here. I mean, they look like the same thing, but BNB actually held up a little bit better in the bear market, which is funny.
Mm-hmm.
So
I remember BNB Bitcoin ripping during the bear market, like ripping.
Yeah, it was this little period down here. See yellow just up, and Bitcoin was down, ripping right there. But yeah, really interesting. Guys are getting a little sneak peek at the terminal. I hope you enjoy it. It's epic. Look at this thing. It's epic. Jackus, what do you think about BNB, man? I don't mean to like talk only about BNB today. Like, the title of today's show is Rate Cuts on Wednesday. We talked about it a bit in the beginning, but I just can't help but show appreciation when something clearly has this kind of support. It almost warrants the attention, even on an FOMC week.
Listen, there is one alpha when it comes to BNB, and that's if you erase the middle letter of N, you will actually get BB.
It's the same color too.
The hidden alpha, man. So long BB. But but yeah, I mean, BNB, I mean, it's not like, gonna provide you thousands of %, but somehow it was one of my best plays of this cycle, where I literally along the bottom sold the top and now rebought the bottom again. And I think it's looking incredibly good still. It's clear it's a higher time frame reaccumulation, and I just think it's gonna go up, especially now, as you guys mentioned, like, you have another catalyst, which is CZ, right? That's he's a persona, and obviously he is disallowed to run Binance, but we all know how these things work, right? Like, you are running things from your villa from a private Iceland. So anyways, yeah, I think BNB running higher is going to be really bullish for lots of alts, not just in the BSC sector, but also like in general, because you have some proxy indexes, which is like ETHBTC, which currently is not good, but that's also the reason why we have not yet seen a broader altcoin outperformance yet. And I think like BNB is another one. So like, the moment we're gonna get BNB and ETHBTC running is really like good signal for risk on in the shitcoin industry.
Yeah, I agree. CZ kind of strikes me as the type of guy who would be running like a drug empire from prison. Those guys who and it's funny, Max, but when we were in Minnesota a few months ago, we were watching a movie almost just like based on somebody running a drug empire from prison. But no, I mean, CZ strikes me as somebody who is he's definitely keeping an eye out for the crypto market. I'm very curious to see how the market reacts and responds when he does get out of prison, right? Is he going to be pumping price? Is he going to be viewed as the reason that price starts pumping? I guess, questions without answers still, but again, I don't really want to mid curve that catalyst. I feel like that's going to be something where people are saying, okay, well, we know it's coming. Is it really that bullish? And then CZ, all it takes is CZ to start bidding one time, right? And Bitcoin, ETH, whatever BNB breaks out, probably more likely Bitcoin or BNB specifically break out, and you're like, okay, well, maybe this is a bit more of a risk on indication. I'm not really in the camp that it's and I said in the camp again, deal with it. I don't really think it's a sell the news type of headline, but yeah, I think people will overthink it in the same way that they overthought the ETF narrative being bullish for Bitcoin.
I think there is still, like, when we think of CZ, right? I mean, he is definitely not like some angel, and I think it's really tough, competition-wise to be playing in this field. I suppose no one is really fully clean. But whenever I heard CZ speaking, I really felt like he means things what he says. And I think I have a good talent on this, and I felt good energy from him. Versus whenever I heard, for example, Sam Bankman-Fried talk, I was like, I'm never depositing on FTX. Like, that guy is a number one scammer, and I truly, because of him, I did not trust him. I was like, what is this? This guy, like eating cucumber. No, obviously that was not the main reason. But
what's wrong with eating cucumbers? I don't get it.
He was sending signals, and I received that signal, and I did not bait in. But no, that was just a joke. But obviously, no. I remember one speech, right? Like with CZ, for example, and he was like, hey, listen, we as Binance, like, we think longer term. And whenever someone thinks longer term, I really like it. And that was first. But then he was like, we are not going to do good as an exchange going into the future if we just like keep shitting on every other exchange, right? We actually need other exchanges to do well, just as us. We as listen, we are the leader. And the only way we are really going to grow is if the entire industry grows well. And I want to help all these other exchanges to do well, because if they do, then the customer is happy, these exchanges are happy, and it will generally bring more people into here, which is going to essentially help us. And I think there is nothing wrong with like trying to benefit yourself and your own company, because there are good ways and bad ways to do it. And the good ways are if you are helping yourself while helping others, right? That's the win-win scenario. And I always felt that from him. Again, I'm not gonna pretend like he was some kind of angel or something, but I always felt pretty like more honest energy from him. I'm not like sure how to describe it. It's more like a vibe, but I feel I get these pretty well when I feel something is not right somewhere versus when it is.
I agree with that, Jackus. And I always have said, just on a very general basis, that like people who pretend to be like disingenuous, they think that they're concealing their motives and their actions. And I think they're actually underestimating like the just innate awareness of other people to be able to have a bullshit detector. And you can always pick up on when somebody is being genuine, long story short. And I felt the very same inauthentic vibes from SBF that you did. It's not the reason why I didn't deposit on the exchange. I'd love to say that it was. I think for me, it was just, I think at the time I just didn't want to like KYC and stuff. I was on KuCoin back in the day, but yeah, now I trade on like Coinbase and stuff like that. So funny how that works. But either way, I could pick up on the how disingenuous Sam was from like a mile away. It just didn't feel right, and he had everybody going to bat for him. I don't know if that was because that he was paying, what in hindsight were bribes to market the exchange, or if people were just very happy to get more free money in a bull market. But yeah, that was always a pretty distinct difference between the two. The differences between the way the two conducted each other, or conducted themselves. What am I saying?
Yeah.
He did sound
What
too
you
good to
cooking?
be true. It's a good comment.
By the way, guys, I have received a really nice comment just after today's cook session in the BB Discord from one of our guys. He said it's a lot of work to try to put the pieces together myself. I don't always have enough time, but the growth from being a part of this Discord was not foreseen. Appreciate those people displaying how far you can go and how good you can get. I'm very appreciative of that comment. The guy, if he's listening, he knows. So thank you for that, and I'm glad that like people are growing a lot. Obviously, it's not going to be for everyone. Not like everyone needs different types of information, or they need like put it in a different way. But many people find their place there, and I'm happy for that. For again, as I just described, basically with CZ, right? Like it's okay to benefit yourself if you benefit others, because then all win, and I feel that way.
Yeah.
What you got for us, Max?
I mean, I'm just loving how this looks, because this feels to me the exact same as, like right over here for fear and greed. This is just like we got a little greedy. This was September, October of last year for total.
Max,
And
a bit of alpha on this chart, because I was playing with it. So if you actually down click the 90 to 100 down there, you can erase those and then just get the ones that you want.
so let's look at this.
can-
Let's
you-
assume we're not going to get into the crazy fear. We're going to smooth it out. We're smoothing the data out. I mean, this is where we're at, We're in one of these right here.
You can play with it, and it's nice.
Yeah.
If you
It's
you
very
just
nice.
keep, for example, like 10 to 40, it's very good. 10 to 30, 10 to 40.
Let's do that. Yeah, that's fun. So this is the fear and greed guys of crypto right now. I mean, we're kind of just hanging out between like 40 and 60 right now, which is pretty classic for like a bull market. Bull market retest. It was this whole region right here, 40, 60, stuff like that. This summer range over here was a little bit more, but we got pretty frothy up here in March, 80 to 90, and market's fearful. Like at the lows over here, we were in 20 to 30. And look at on the chart, you can see them slightly highlighted every time we've been between 20 and 30 for the fear and greed for Bitcoin. Look at this. You can see it was like January 2019, January 2020, right after COVID, the summer 2021 bottom, and then the bear market bottom, right? So it's helpful to apply context to all this. Let's see. We could do some big terminal discounts. If you guys get to a certain amount of likes, I could make a code if you guys wanna try it. It's pretty awesome. We've got like portfolio tracking and everything. It's really, really unreal, honestly. So we're still adding a ton of indicators, but if we get to a certain amount of likes, we could do. Hopefully Tucker's not watching. He'll probably freak out. But yeah, we could do. Let's do this. All right. If we get to 300, likes live, which is good for us. If we get to 300 likes live, we will do a 50% off code for BB Terminal Only for 5 people though, because we already discounted it a ton because it's in beta right now. So there's going to be a lot of new stuff that rolls out. Like we have order execution coming in like a few weeks, whole bunch of new stuff. So it's already really discounted. But if we get to 300 likes and Tucker's not watching and doesn't block it real quick, we will do 5, only 5, because I have to justify it to our CFO later.
I'm just waiting for his comment to pop up on the stream.
Yeah, he's gonna be like, no, don't do it. We can't do it. But yeah, it's got everything, man. I mean, it's got everything. It's got everything. And this, I mean, this is cool, right? Market value to realized value, MVRV. It's really great, right? Like you can see that historically, like what we got recently is somewhat comparable to the overextension that we saw in 2019. But we didn't get up into that region of like bull market tops, right? We are, we had a nice rally, right? But we have basically had a reset. We've basically had a reset. But yeah, if you guys rip it to 300 likes, we'll sneak a code in. Just don't tell Tucker, but 48 more likes. But yeah, this is actually my favorite one too. Bitcoin terminal price. I love this one where basically every single top that Bitcoin has had and every bottom has been called by price moving above the upper line and within the bottom 2 lines, right? Like let's look at recent years, right? Called the 2017 top, called the 2019, bottom. Over here 2021 top. As soon as we got above it, that was your top. Bear market low. Look at the bear market bottom. Literally perfectly called it. The balance price, realized price and balance price perfectly. So right now, just taking into consideration that every single cycle top for Bitcoin has occurred above basically the terminal price line, the top green line. Right now, our terminal price for Bitcoin is 152K. So this time's not different. We got some room to move up in this bull market.
Oh, he's here.
Oh no. Oh shit.
I'm
Oh,
disliking
man.
this stream.
I knew he was gonna show up, man. I knew it. This is also one of my favorites here too. This is like giga alpha right here. The supply and profit and loss for Bitcoin. You got Bitcoin behind. Every single bear market bottom has been called by the supply and profit and the supply and loss basically converging and crossing over each other, right? Like it called the bear market accumulation right over here in 2015, called the Pico Schmico bottom over here in 2019, called the COVID bottom perfectly, and then called the most recent FTX collapse perfectly, right? So this one is unreal as well. I love this one. This is one of my favorites. So we're adding on a ton of these too. But all this is to show too, like we're showing you the terminal. You should use it. But all of this stuff is really important data to use as confluence for all the trading that we talk about, right? It's just that little extra bit to give you that edge above and beyond just drawing lines on TradingView, right? This is, I mean, millions of data points all compiled into one kind of all you can use, all you can need Swiss Army knife, right? So just going through some of these, right? This is a cool one too. We were actually looking at this for ETH, and this is ETH. Let's see here. Yep. So this is ETH extension from its 5-week moving average. You can go through here. You can go, 10 weeks, whatever it is. We're getting into that like real bottoming region, right? So let's just go through recent years. So here's ETH's price, and the green line is how far away it is from its 10-week moving average. Look at where we bottomed out here when we had the nuke. This is the same level that we had before some serious bounces, right? Like right even over here, we were lower than we were in the bear market or before we started pumping over here in last September, right? It actually does have AI. It actually does have AI if you want to take a look at it. So for example, we could do your starting balance is 0, and we have a calculator over here. So starting balance, let's just say you had, you know, $1,000 in Bitcoin, and your recurring investment is going to be $2,500 per month, right? You can select your frequency over here. Let's just say you started in January of 2022, you know, I don't know, and you went through the present day. You click calculate, and here's your equity curve. Here's all your purchases, right? So it extrapolates everything out for you, how much you put in, what it would be worth, what price you bought at. Here's your equity curve. So it shows like how much you have in Bitcoin. You would have invested if you started buying $2,500 of Bitcoin per month from January 1st. Actually, I did January 16th. We'll change that. I don't know why. It's going to bug me. There you go. You would have put in 83,500. Your average buy price would have been 37,724. You would have been up 85%. Total gain 71,000, and it will actually show you on the TradingView chart where all of your purchases would have been as well right here. And it does have little AI suggestion over here. So yeah, you can see right here, it'll just give you a little write-up. And if you don't want to use it, you can just turn it off. But it will just kind of look at this chart and just tell you basically, hey, here's what I'm seeing. I'm AI. So it's pretty cool. Just a cool, fun way to look back and be like, yeah, if I had done this for Bitcoin, this is what it would have looked like. Now let me see how I want to adapt a strategy, you know, moving forward. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
You also
Anyways,
get all the fancy open interest data I love to use. So
yeah, Tommy likes this stuff. This is the quant page. This is the quant page. Yeah, this is Tommy's page. But anyways, let's pull up a little TradingView. I want to look at some pairs and stuff like that. It's just a big week, guys. Like, it's just such a big week, man. Like, we're at such an inflection point, right? I will say this though. It really makes me feel like this. You know, it really makes me feel like we're doing, because I remember I'm sure Tommy remembers this too. We were so giga short, right in here, like from here down here. And I know we were looking for like this, you know, like this. And I remember looking at this, and this is what I was doing. I was looking at, I remember I even tweeted this out somewhere. I remember looking at this going, okay, we had a pump, we had a weekly breaker block, we're now below it. When we were right here, I tweeted, oh crap. Like, we lost that weekly block right there. Your next level, unless they can bring this thing back from the dead, is down here at like 1,200, right? And we were giga short. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, after we're breaking structure, sliding, whatever, suddenly we were back up here. And I remember I panic closed my shorts. I was talking with Jackus. We were hanging out on Market Check. There were like 6 people watching the show at that point. Nobody cared at all. Nobody cared at all. And I remember Jackus was like, you said, Jackus, I am watching the asset that I love die. It will hold here, though. I'm not worried about it. And then it refused to break down after that weekly breaker block. I remember drawing that. I remember drawing it so intently, being like, oh my gosh, this ETH chart is cooked and a half right here. And then on this candle, I closed all my shorts and I fully deployed into ETH after that. Because it's like a refusal to break down when you really obviously should break down and structure's cooked is really, really, like, that's unreal. Like, that's such a nice, solid, bullish signal. And I remember looking at that being like, it's over, it's cooked. And I showed you guys earlier on the terminal, like, how conditions are actually very similar to September. Like, sporadically negative funding, spot discount, you know. And I'm looking at this feeling like everybody It reminds me of this right here, this same range and how it looked like it was so weak and breaking down, and you had negative funding and you had a spot discount and then you just got a ripper, right? It feels the same to me. It feels really similar. And of course, how spooky, September to October into a Q4 and Q1 rip. That's just what ETH does, right? Like at this point, how many people said with confidence? I know Jackus did, but how many people said with confidence, like, oh yeah, ETH will tag 4K in the next 6 months? That was a bold claim at the time because this was junk. This didn't really give you bullish vibes. It certainly didn't give me bullish vibes. When we refused to break down when we should have, then I got bullish, right? But I'm getting some similar vibes. And under the surface, I showed you guys on the terminal. Similar. Like, I'll show you again, just because there's probably some new people in here too. We'll pull it up. Let me jump back over. All right, so here's what I'm talking about. And we'll put up funding. And we'll just make this a little smaller. Like, you're seeing this discount across the board right now. And this negative funding right in here. Spot discount. Negative funding. Spot discount. September, same exact time. Just saying. No, BB Terminal is not free. We do charge for it, but if we get to a certain amount of likes on YouTube, we're gonna do an even bigger discount just for 5 people, so you guys can try it. But it's really great. Like it's really great. It's got everything that you could ever want or need, so it's great. But yeah.
I think for me, what I'm looking for with ETH is some sort of I mean, Bitcoin had the Bitcoin ETF and it caught everybody off guard. I mean, there were rumors that it could happen and we knew that they were there, but I mean, I know, Max, you remember distinctly that that announcement candle when it was rumored but not confirmed, and Bitcoin ended up barting it, but it squeezed pretty heavily before that happened, and it very much highlighted the fact that the market was offside for a potential Bitcoin-led rally or for that catalyst specifically, because we were all allocated, the entire space. Most people will tell you, I'm really not holding much Bitcoin. I'm allocated heavily to altcoins. Why would I hold Bitcoin? You can't make any money holding Bitcoin. And then sure enough, what did Bitcoin do? But it outperformed. I mean, if you're still holding Bitcoin from the ETF, you probably outperformed a lot of people who thought they would outperform Bitcoin just holding altcoins and are still holding, obviously. That's assuming that you haven't taken any profit on any of your altcoin gains. I'm sure some people have, but also some people haven't. The bottom line is people were under allocated to Bitcoin. And that's why it rallied the way that it did and squeezed shorts ultimately, because you had a rush to allocate, not just from crypto natives, but also from TradFi, highlighted through CME futures until obviously the spot ETF went live. And then we had, almost billions of dollars a day in order flow buying Bitcoin. So people were very under allocated to Bitcoin. Is ETH the same way? I ask myself. And if it is, what is that right tail risk that's going to take ETH, I think, to break out of this range in the same way that Bitcoin did? Right now, I'm not entirely sure what that is. I mean, ETH obviously has its spot ETF catalyst out of the way. But maybe we have something down the line for ETH that can save it. I just know right now this structure looks rough. And it's gonna need something, I think, a little bit extra to be able to save it at this point. Maybe what that could also be as well is just Bitcoin leading the market higher, grinding ETH back into a salvageable structure, and then ETH gets the catalyst, right? Like I could see that being the scenario that plays out as well. But if that's the case, I mean, that scenario leads ETH Bitcoin lower in the immediate term. rather than higher, which is kind of, something we were talking about over the last few weeks. Like, is ETH going to lead the market or not? And I think we're still pretty firmly in the camp that Bitcoin has to lead the market higher, which just tells me on a higher time frame that altcoins haven't even had, their quote unquote alt season or period of outperformance yet, because that will only come when ETH Bitcoin has bottomed and begins trending aggressively to the upside.
Tommy, what do you think about? Okay, so you mentioned a couple of things. I want to throw this into the mix. You're not sure what's going to save ETH at this point. I'll be honest, man. Nobody cares about the tech in crypto, truthfully. Like, the tech is Bitcoin. Okay. The tech is literally just Bitcoin. Okay. And yeah, smart contracts, I agree, but like, it's Bitcoin. And ETH DeFi is a great thing. But besides ETH DeFi and Bitcoin, I don't know. I think we're far away from like the real tech, like these valuations are demanding of us. Okay. I feel as though what saves ETH is that we get cheaper money and we get a bull market and the price goes up. And I think it might be that simple, right? I don't think we're going to get another advancement of ETH. I don't think we're going to get something crazy with ETH to save it. I feel like it's just going to be a result of lower interest rates and cheaper money. And ETH is going to catch a bid because people are bidding beta, just like they bid shit co's and the Russell goes up. And then everyone will be like, oh, ETH is great again. ETH is awesome because the price went up. Do you think it could be that simple, or are you actually thinking there needs to be some advent, something that saves it?
In any other bull market, I would agree with that statement. I think that because of Sol rising so much in popularity, the ability to shitcoin is just a better product market fit than what you're able to do on ETH, at least until that behavior changes. I think that ETH would probably need some sort of fundamental catalyst to bring people back. And I could also see that catalyst being, because I've talked about this before. I mean, you need DeFi to come back to bring ETH back. So eventually DeFi's resurrection will be what leads ETH back, in my opinion. The addition on top of that is, I mean, how long ago was it that we were talking about tokenization on ETH, right? Like, the bankers will want to tokenize assets on ETH. They'll probably want to do it through DeFi. Are they going to want to do all of that right now on the current rails of DeFi? Probably not. But over a long enough time horizon, I do think that is the bull case for Ethereum. It's just right now in the immediate term, right? Like, do we get any narratives related to tokenization, or if it's just expected to be, okay, liquidity will come in and we can shitcoin on ETH, and that's all that we'll have to be able to do? I think at the very least, ETH will still just drastically underperform Solana.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, honestly, but I don't. How do you feel about the Sol ETH pair? Do you have any thoughts
I
there?
haven't looked at it in a few days. I was pretty wrong on that pair, so at least I think I might be, unless Sol just like nukes from here. But no, I'm getting more bullish on this pair just because I think I'm just more bearish on ETH as a whole. But yeah, I was bearish on Sol ETH because I thought ETH would have to lead the market higher. It would eventually kickstart a rotation on ETH. It just hasn't happened. So I kind of think, if Bitcoin's going to keep leading the market higher, what altcoin has been most heavily correlated with Bitcoin throughout the bull run? It's been Solana. So this pair would probably go higher. And if we dump from here, I kind of think there's a decent chance Sol outperforms ETH if we dump from here too. So I kind of had to like reframe my expectations of this pair a little bit.
Okay, what if I were to show you this fractal though, Tommy? What if I were to show you this? How would you feel? How would you feel about it then? Would you
I could
feel
see
any
it.
type of way?
I could totally see it. 100%. And I will say, I think Sol Bitcoin is probably top 2. So that would line up with at least the bias I have on Sol versus Bitcoin. How many cringe videos about Solana have we seen in the last like 2 or 3 months? I know that in itself is not enough reason to be bearish on Sol versus other assets, but it's it's kind of like sticking out like a bit of a sore thumb how much of a certainty Sol outperformance for the remainder of the cycle and how consensus that idea has become. And I don't think it's as cut and dry as that. But maybe it is, and I'm just overcomplicating it.
This is either unreal vertical accumulation on the Sol ETH pair, or it's gonna just get cooked against against ETH. But I don't know. I mean, it's hard to. We know historically that ETH does well in Q4 and Q1. We don't really know how Sol's going to do because it hasn't been around as long, right? We have some data, but not as much. And I don't know. I mean, there's a part of me that just can't give up on ETH, right? I know there's more competition. I know it's got problems. I know it's got problems.
I can save her.
Yeah. I just don't know if I can give up on it. Like, I feel like even if I'm gonna give up on it, I feel like we at least need like one final ETH pump against everything, you know, just to give us a little something, give us the hope, right? Even this, right? I would settle for even something like this, right? Let's look at ETH BTC. Okay. It doesn't take a genius to recognize that this was your first top and this was your second top. Move that up a little bit, right? I mean, what can we even get this? You know, we'll continue our trend. How about that? Could I get 0.07? Could I get 0.07? That's all. I'm not a greedy man. Could I just get 0.07? You know, just a little something like this, right? A little ETH season. You know, give me a 2x against Bitcoin. That's it. I won't ask for too much. Just a 2x against Bitcoin.
It's funny how we joke about how you never want to be the main character in crypto. And I think you can apply very similar logic for you never want to be the main character of crypto outside of Bitcoin. Yeah. And ETH is maybe suffering from that a little bit right now because people want ETH to be elevated to Bitcoin status when it's a fundamentally different asset. And the fundamentals that we are used to seeing on ETH, right, shitcoining and speculation, have been taken over by Solana because, one, more so than anything, the token is just a smaller market cap. It's much easier to move than Ethereum, which is a big reason why it's outperformed, in my opinion. And of course, it's easier and cheaper to shitcoin on Solana than it is versus Ethereum. So ETH's kind of, and we talked about this before, in a bit of like an identity crisis, where it needs to figure out, okay, like what is the reason to be holding ETH for the next 10 to 20 years instead of Bitcoin for storage of value and Solana for speculation? And I do think that ETH will find that niche eventually. I just don't know when.
Jackus, what do you think about ETH BTC?
Yeah, like I said, I do need to see ETH/USD. I think really the moment ETH BTC starts outperforming is when ETH breaks 4K. I was hoping that with the recent bounce we would start to see it climb up, but it's just being dragged lower. I think the key level for it to hold was it was prior to the ETF announcement, basically when we bounced, right? That's when I was pretty much gigabulled up. Then I was saying prior to the August drop that this is not looking good and that ETH BTC looks like it's rolling over. In the group, I was saying to escape ETH basically at 0.05. We did it on the USD pair, and then I was rebuying the exact wick low on August 5th, which is at 2.2K approximately. And that was the ETH BTC approximately 0.04. So I think that, listen, it's probably going to be as simple as this, right? If ETH is bottomed here, which I think it is, and it starts moving higher, then it's only really a matter of time when the ETH BTC pair starts to outperform. But people don't have the time, and as long as price is down, people will feel bad about it. But it's not really much. It's actually the same. I wouldn't say it's not much different. It's the same with Bitcoin. When Bitcoin got laughed at from TradFi people, right? And if you bought like BTC in June 2022, you were actually able to buy it for 18K, right? And then it moved up, it moved down, it moved up, it moved down, it moved up. It took until November, then FTX came in. There was another sell-off, another bottom bleed, and you basically spent down there like another 6 months. Then it pumped higher to 25K, but then rejected to 20K again, and it was a long time for it to actually like print this bottom. And in that whole time, you got laughed at from the TradFi guys. Then it still took lots of time to reaccumulate until it really like got to the place it is today. And I think it's pretty much the same with ETH. I think even if you bought at like 0.05, which is now higher, which is like the levels it was in December or October 2023, we could even say a year ago, right? I still think that those numbers will be very good longer term speaking. It will be like, it will not matter much whether you bought Bitcoin at 25K, 23K, 20K, 18K, or 16K. Like it will matter, but not that much, because if you will be able to see the forest for the trees and hold through all these other people laughing, you will laugh at them at the end, because most of the people that laughed at anyone buying Bitcoin down there back then, they lost. They lost because Bitcoin is now higher, even percentage-wise, and that's even at a time when, like relatively speaking, Bitcoin hasn't been outperforming. And it's still outperformed. Like it wasn't outperforming in terms of the swing moves, just in terms of percentages, because it's a lower market cap. It's a higher volatility asset, and yet it outperformed, right? So I think when it comes to ETH BTC, you just have to endure basically being mocked down while we are down, so that you can tell them, "I told you so," when it's going to be up. And it's really just a matter of time, because it's not much about ETH BTC as much as it is about ETH USD right now.
I agree with that. ETH USD is providing a very, I'm going to keep using this term, but binary framework for decision making, right? Like if you lose the support is a lot lower. If you hold it, that's a very, very clean level to be forming reaccumulation off of. And if we get the latter scenario, for me, that probably means Bitcoin outperforming ETH for a longer period of time, but ETH eventually probably catching up and finding a narrative along the way. But I don't want to put too much emphasis on the idea like, okay, this asset, I have to have a narrative to be able to like buy this asset. But I think at the same time, I look at other alt Bitcoins down through time, and I'm asking myself, what makes ETH different from Bitcoin in that regard, other than just the fact that it was, the first big altcoin that this market's seen. So I do think to some degree we want to see ETH, and Solana's almost opened the door for ETH to do so. Like find a utility other than shitcoining, or bring shitcoining back to ETH and away from Solana, because that's just as good. People will cling to that narrative all the same. But I want I want ETH to distinguish itself in a way that will prevent it from going the same route that every other alt Bitcoin pair has kind of done since the beginning of time.
Yep, I agree with you. I definitely do. All right, guys. Well, good news here. Good news. Good news.
This guy gets it.
Yeah, he does. That's a good looking pair. I was checking that out last week, Jackus.
I kept telling people for the past, many months.
Listen, guys, we got 5 BB terminals for half off your first month. Try it out. It's already discounted a lot because we're still in beta and still adding. But if you liked what you saw today and you want to give it a try, link in the description below, guys. It is absolutely awesome. It's got everything that you could ever need or want to succeed in these markets. Ignore Tucker. We're all good. Don't worry about it. You're going to click on the link in the description below. You're going to go to sign up. You can click this one, which is already discounted, and then use the code BBT50 for another 50% off. Don't tell Tucker. Don't worry about Tucker. He's fine. Someone just blocked Tucker so we can't get him in the comments. Just hide all of his comments. All good, guys. And if you really want to dive in and have Terminal plus Telegram plus Discord access, of course, the other two are available also. But just for Terminal Telegram, guys, check it out. Half off of what's already half off, basically. So definitely check that out. Only for 5 people, guys. It's right there. BBT50. If you want to use it, only 5. Only 5. We'll leave that up for a little bit, but it's great. Yeah, BB Terminal, guys. It's fantastic. Link in the description.
You can just see Tucker seething somewhere.
Yeah, use code Tucker50 if you would like.
That would be funny, actually.
That'd be funny. CFO50.
That's the ticker.
You got everything, man. You got everything. You got Agger. You got all your quant data. You get the Telegram alerts channel with everything that you could ever want or need. You've got your heat maps. You've got your spaghetti charts. You've got all your DCA stuff. We're still working on the DGen page. That's why we're in beta. But yeah, guys, it's great. It's great. You should try it out. You should come join us. You've got all your returns here, guys. Look at all your daily returns, everything you could need or want. Plus, you get to hang out with us in Telegram and be alerted to things 24/7. 24/7. Yeah, guys, there's only 5 available. BBT50 for 50% off of the 50% off because we're still in beta. So definitely a good deal. It's great. We'll run through some indicators. How's it? What do you guys think about the Pi cycle top for this cycle? Do you think it will work or no? Like, I know it's a little like, it was kind of fit in hindsight. Do you guys think it's going to matter again for this cycle or no?
I mean, it will probably make people sell too early in a few years, is my guesstimation.
Ooh.
So.
I mean, we're kind of below it right now. It looks like we're kind of off schedule a little bit. I don't know. I guess that would suggest that maybe we're, somewhere in here, kind of like we did in 2019, 2020. It's not Tucker 50, guys. It's BBT 50. It should have been Tucker 50, but it's BBT 50.
Big bad Tucker.
Big bad Tucker.
Yeah, man.
What's that indicator Naka got made fun of for using? I can't remember the name of it. It was it wasn't the nipple indicator, but that's what they made fun of him for sounding like. Well, the Nupal.
The Nupal
indicator. That's right.
Yeah, the Nupal.
What even is that indicator? I didn't even know what.
Net unrealized profit and loss or something like that. I don't know. Something like that.
I think all these indicators are pretty useful to use as a confluence, but what people shouldn't do is these indicators shouldn't be your master. You need to be master of those indicators. They need to be used as a tool.
Yeah, it's helpful to have. It's one more bit of high time frame confluence, right? With some of this stuff, it's just adding more tools to your arsenal. Just more tools.
Exactly. Like it's very useful. What Naka, like you said, Nuple, right? Like those are important metrics, but and you want to use them. Like you actually do want to use these things to analyze, to create a context, but you shouldn't look like Naka at a single one and say, hey, line crossed each other, that means everything's over.
Yeah, it was funny because I think he made that comment about the Nuple and then also said the pi cycle was outdated and meaningless. So I agree with you, Jackus. It's like if you're using an indicator, it's context. It's not the be all end all. It's always about how you interpret that context within a broader set of data and information.
What always amazes me in the market is that we basically, more or less all look at the same data, like, yeah, slightly different, but more or less very similar. But we all draw different outcomes. And that's what I find fascinating.
100%. 100%. Like it really is kind of like the same thing. Like as far as your trading strategy, right? We're all kind of trading the exact same thing, just in a different way. Obviously, it's not going to be one size fits all for the way that you trade every asset, but generally speaking, like somebody who's trading order flow really isn't doing anything that is that different from somebody who's trading just regular price action.
Yep. All right, guys. We'll hang out for another couple minutes. BBT 50 for 50% off of what's already basically 50% off for BB Terminal, guys. It's unreal. It's fantastic. You're going to love it. Join us for the beta testing, guys. Join us. It's lovely. Looks like we had a few people use it already. Oh, yep. All right. BBT 50, guys. But all right, we are going to call it here. Thanks so much for joining us today. Actually, Tommy's here. I'm going to let Tommy take us out. Why am I doing it?
All right, guys, I will take us out.
I got my man for it.
I'll be doing the outro, but first, don't forget BBT 50 for the BB terminal. I guess I will start with that. Usually I start in a different order as far as our products go, but we have the code already up on the screen, guys. We have worked so hard to get this product out to you. And as you can see, there's a lot of attention to detail within the product, a lot of useful information, data syndication, and everything in between. So like I said, whether or not you are a PA trader or a high time frame trader looking to kind of look at some of those oscillators, obviously Bitcoin and very high time frame focused indicators, or whether or not you're looking for maybe a bit more granular data such as heat maps or open interest, the BB terminal has all of it for you. So you realistically you probably won't need any other way to access data outside of, maybe you need TradingView, but some of you probably wouldn't even need it because the BB terminal is fortunately that comprehensive of a product. But make sure to check that out. Use the discount code if there are still any left. And yeah, I am looking forward to seeing where the BB terminal continues to take its journey here over the next few weeks as we continue to make it the best possible product on the market. Of course, guys, we also have launched our official SEC registered hedge fund. That is BB Wealth Management. We allow you access to be able to, well, it allows us to be a community, the ability to, for the team to manage their money, right? Because Bitcoin as a team, we prefer to trade and invest in digital assets in a way that looks to capture their asymmetric history for upside returns while also managing the downside risks posed in any financial market. So if becoming an accredited investor or LP is something that interests you, maybe you want Jackus, maybe you want Max, maybe you want me or Tucker to manage your money, reach out to us via email. We'll get back to you as quickly as we can and answer any and all of your questions. So make sure to check that out as well in the description below. Of course, we also have the BB Academy, guys. Another day I'm going to say it. We have gotten incredible feedback from you guys already. I also saw some of you asking in the comments for some BB terminal discounts. Unfortunately, we discounted, or not terminal, but for Academy discounts. We discounted the terminal earlier, and I think Tucker would probably kill Max if he also did BB Academy discounted on the same show. But amazing feedback from y'all thus far. I mean, it's not often that you get to learn from so many different traders with a very wide variety of approaches and how they view this market, how they analyze and ultimately trade as well. So whether or not you're looking to hone that educational base or even reach trading mastery, there is a place for you in the BB Academy. So make sure to check that out as well in the Discord below. And if you enjoyed Market Check, we will be back for another episode tomorrow morning, bright and early, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to have a great show once again as we close in on Chairman Powell's. I mean, the decision's probably already made, right? But Chairman Powell will finally be talking about it on Wednesday. And I'm sure, markets will probably more or less be in purgatory until that happens. But fear not, we will be covering it all live tomorrow. Like I said, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are live every weekday whenever the New York Stock Exchange is open. Make sure to check out Market Talk as well with the legendary King Wabi. He does an exceptional job on those shows. Very much just kind of like a fireside chat. So if you are looking for a bit of a fix on the market into the afternoon, you enjoyed Market Check, you're looking for more literal and figurative market talk, head on over to Wabi's show later this afternoon and on afternoons and the weekdays. Make sure to stay following and subscribe to our Twitter account, Because Bitcoin, so you can be notified not just when we schedule those spaces, but also when we go live. But that's it from us, guys. I hope you have all had a fantastic start to your Monday, a fantastic start to your week. It is a big week in store for us, and we are excited. I'm excited, if for nothing else, for clarity. Hopefully coming out of this week as far as, what Q4 has in store for us. Because I think we all know, there are these tailwinds that we can see coming. But of course, it's just like it's something new every week, isn't it, man? Like Japan blew itself up a month ago. Now we have potentially 50 basis point rate cuts. Like, man, there's no shortage of intrigue in this market. I will say that. But until next time, guys, thank you again, as always. Stay safe.
Ciao. Boom, shakalaka.